Now let's move to the story around the DA. They started removing their controversial posters in KwaZulu-Natal. The posters read, "The ANC called you racists, the DA calls you heroes." The party was severely criticized for these following the racial tensions that broke out in Phoenix in Durban during the July civil unrest. 36 people were killed during that time. For more on this, we're joined by Crispin Hemson, who is the director of International Centre of Nonviolence at Durban University of Technology. Chris, thank you so much for making time. The DA was on a defense mode yesterday. They've been trying to justify these posters, even when the families of the victims of the Phoenix massacre said, "We are hurt, we are offended by these posters." And now they're saying we shouldn't have put them up. Are you surprised by this decision by the party, and is it a little too late?
I'm not surprised. My initial take was that this is what had happened, that somebody had rushed ahead and without thinking through any of the implications acted in this way. So it's right that it's happened, but damage has been done because it has revealed a kind of racialized thinking within the DA, which professes to be so, non-racial in its approach. This is particularly, I mean, the use of the word "you" there, that was a racial "you." Those posters did not go up in Bambayi, Izimongweni and Amawati in the neighboring areas. So, yeah, that has revealed something that's done a lot of damage to the DA and its credibility.
Yeah, and I don't know why then, Crispin, they kept on defending the indefensible. Because sometimes, even in your messaging, political messaging, sometimes you may not intend to hurt people or may not even intend to cause controversy. But in an instance like this, when there are victims or families of the victims of the Phoenix massacre telling you that this is how we feel when we see your posters, the very least you can do as any other human being, as any other political party, is to pause and think, oh, is that how it makes you feel? And apologize for that, even when it's not what you intended. What consequences do you think lie for the Democratic Alliance here? Because it's not the first time that they have used race as a form of, I suppose, campaigning.
Yeah, look, the only thing I could say in their defense is that they're not the only party to have done that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's not great. What we need leadership. I mean, and leadership has to step out of playing on the racial divisions. The whole problem in July started with people knowingly, awarely instigating that reaction from black working class people. Because they knew that would be the reaction. It was a racialized initiative, and the response to it was racialized. And that's so unfortunate, because if we are going to ever move ahead from this, we need the responses to provocation to be thoughtful and caring. Since in July, I was appalled by the lack of sensitivity to the harm, the hurt, the damage done to those families. It was horrendous, and there was a kind of numbness that I was picking up. That there was a serious failure of leadership on the part of so many different groupings across the board.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the statement right now, in fact, and I'm even struggling to see the apology or the part where Dean McPherson also just acknowledges and says sorry. But one of the things that is indicated here is that these posters were not sanctioned by the DA leader, but the very same DA leader yesterday was busy defending the same posters. I mean, is this how they've decided it's how they're going to deal with it? How is the DA leader then going to justify defending the same posters if he didn't sanction them?
Yeah, look, I think he was caught on the back foot. Organizationally, it was a disaster. The DA was actually in a relatively strong position in this region, I would have thought, compared to their previous showing, because there has been a reaction against the failings of the ANC. But I want to push it a little bit past the party political, because these issues are too fundamental for us. In July, we were abandoned by leaders of various political parties. We were abandoned. We desperately needed some sort of leadership that could say, okay, there are these divisions, there are these tensions, there's these histories and the damage done by those histories. We will find a way ahead on this. And I don't care which party it comes from. But we need people who say, okay, we will set out to reconcile Indian and African people as simply one part of what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And that opportunity has not been taken. And this reflects very poorly on the DA in this particular case.
Yeah, and I mean, the DA did, I mean, they were one of the political parties that were on the ground in the beginning when what happened in Phoenix happened. And I'm sure you agree they could have positioned their campaigning in a different way, maybe to look at the contribution they made in being on the ground and trying to listen to the residents in the areas that were affected. Do you think it helps that the other political parties are also clamoring here and using the issue of race and criticizing the DA? Because the ANC was on the ground in Phoenix today. I mean, it's no surprise that they are there today, just a day after there was this public storm around these posters. And of course, they are there busy condemning the Democratic Alliance. I know that's what political parties do, but do you think the approach could be a little different here so that they're not seen, these political parties, as if they're being opportunistic on events that are so sensitive and they can find other ways to, in fact, unite the communities in that area?
Yeah, look, I think there has been some attempts from people within the ANC to move things ahead in terms of dialogue, in terms of collective initiatives in that area. There have been some attempts, but we're not seeing enough of that. Too much of the energy is going on to, well, that proves what we already knew about the DA.
Yeah.
You know, it's that typical party political thing. But I'm picking up from a lot of people, and I teach students at DUT, for example. I'm picking up a sense of the key issues are not going to be resolved by political parties, actually. That creates an opportunity which I don't see many people taking. I mean, imagine if we were to have the kind of difficult but really essential interactions between people across divisions that we've never had in this province. We have a particularly brutal history, frankly.
Yeah.
And it's time for us to face up to that history and not reduce it all to sort of party political conflict and positioning around resources.